Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. This is our 10th episode, double digits, baby. How
We have
crazy.
hit double digits.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode, our 10th episode on a podcast where a current and an ex-student athlete sit down and have real discussions with other student athletes and ask the questions that nobody really asks. My name is Ariana Fernandez.
And I'm Maya Falcon. And this week we have another guest. He is a good friend of mine who is a very versatile athlete. That's all I can say because I don't want to pump up his ego any more than it already is. That is going into his third year of university, Josh Brennan. Hi, Josh.
Hi, guys. It's great to be here. I'm excited.
We're excited
Awesome.
to have you on. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here.
Oh, of course.
good.
Of course. It's dope.
All right, Josh. So, why don't you start off by introducing yourself to the listeners? We know your name is Josh, but tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. Thanks, Maya. I am Josh. I am 22 years old. I love sports. I'm super competitive. I currently play for the Leaside Flames Junior Baseball, Ajax Knights, and I'm a Team Ontario All-Star X athlete. And right now I go to the University of Ontario Tech for finance.
Very cool.
This on versatile athlete from before, as you can see.
I think this is
That's
our
pretty sick,
no, it
though.
is. This is our first dual sport athlete, so that's very cool. We love to see it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
little
current
curveball.
dual sport.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Josh, why don't you tell us currently what you're doing and in terms of school, work, sports, how is your life currently?
It's going well. The pandemic's making it pretty tough to do pretty much anything.
For sure.
Most of our leagues have been canceled, or not canceled, but delayed for the past year or so. It's been pretty slow. A lot of training, like individual training, and a lot of just getting your body right, your mind right. But yeah, other than that, school's all right. Online classes suck. I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say online classes are not for me. That ain't it, Chief.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah. But yeah, I'm at UIT right now for finance, and it's going all right. It's pretty quiet though, like I said, because the pandemic. I'm pretty sad right now because the Leafs are out of the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Very,
It's
very
a tough
disappointed.
year to be a Leafs fan, let me tell you. It's
Tough
a tough
year.
year.
It's a
Tough year to be a
life.
tough year to be a Toronto fan. Raps kind of
Yeah.
hit the bump at the end. Leafs. Jays aren't doing bad. So
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have
Young
to start
boys.
watching baseball.
Ariana watching baseball.
I know that's a foreign.
Fans, I love you, but
concept.
nah.
It's all good.
Yeah,
It's all good.
that's a foreign concept for me. So we're just gonna stick to swimming and basketball. That's
Hey,
it. That's it. for me.
Swimming's dope. Swimming's dope.
So, and you said that because of COVID and the pandemic, some things have been kind of thrown off or maybe haven't really gone the way that you expected. So, in terms of baseball and hockey, how have things kind of changed because of the pandemic for you?
Oh yeah, it's been pretty like I said, it's been pretty slow. A lot of our regulation leagues or the regular leagues that we play in were delayed because like there's just so much contact like with the people you're with. So we actually had to go off and join like separate like leagues just to keep our bodies right and just to keep training. Like we all joined like a men's league, and I tell you that was the most competitive men's league ever because everyone from like the teams, like the competitive rep teams, were all in that league. So all these men's league guys were just going up against a bunch of ex university athletes, Division II athletes, and it was fun. But yeah, we've just been doing whatever we can to like stay active as much as we can and just try not to get slumped into feeling down and alone during the pandemic.
And how have you coped with that? Like how, because obviously that's such a drastic change and you probably weren't expecting that to happen in 2020, 2021. So how have you been coping with that kind of a change?
Definitely different. Like, well, I don't think we've ever in our lifetime have experienced something like this before. So it's definitely something that like is, I guess, eye-opening in the way that like you really get to reflect, look at yourself, you really get to see like how progressing through life and then like just how much things have changed and how much you've changed. And I don't want to get too deep because I I don't think it's
You know
that
what?
deep. But
This is the podcast for that. So get deep. You know, we're getting into raw emotions. So
it's
fair. Honestly,
fair.
truthfully, you mentioned it being lonely, and I can understand that. I mean, when so many things have changed and nothing feels normal, it can feel lonely. It can
Oh,
feel
for sure.
uneasy, you know, even. So processing that emotion, how do you go about that? And how, if that makes sense, like how do you go about processing that loneliness?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Processing it, it's kind of just like thinking to yourself, just thinking how good you can be when you come back, right? Like, or how much you have progressed or how much you've improved, and just keep reminding to yourself that you need to stay on top of your, just like overall fitness and just things like that, because these things, like, it's been how, I don't know how long we've been in lockdown for, but
Too long.
too long. Exactly. It's definitely like a mental switch you have to flip to try not to get too down on yourself, or just even when you're not like feeling like you're doing anything wrong, right? Like, just the whole quarantine, you're definitely left alone thinking about things a lot more
For sure.
than usual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of mental switch or flip, the life of so kind of streaming away from the whole pandemic talk. Obviously, you can't really stray too far away from it, because it's been our life. But
Yeah.
with your episode, we kind of wanted to focus on the uniqueness of your recruiting process and kind of what you're doing now, which I think is really cool and really great, honestly. But so right now, from my understanding, Josh, when you were in high school, you went through the whole recruiting process looking to go to school down in the States for baseball, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, but ultimately you decided to stay here and pursue your education here and continue playing baseball here. Can you get into that a little bit if you're comfortable, kind of what fed into that decision?
Oh, of course. I guess I have to start a little bit back when I was younger. I don't want to make the answer too long. Basically, when I was younger, right, when I first started playing, I was actually a pretty late bloomer. And originally, when I, first started, I was pretty young. I was still in the sports, but I hadn't hit like an athletic growth spurt yet, I guess you could say, in a way. And that definitely led to like criticism of like how I played, and my own doubt, because like people, they would criticize and comment, because kids are like that, right? And me at the time, being young and naive, right, that definitely did not help confidence. And when I got older, I in around like grade 5 or 6, I hit my growth spurt, my athletics like growth spurt, and I just woke up one day and I said, like, instead of like before that day, I was just thinking to myself, like, oh, I'm in sports, yeah, they're okay. And then one day I just woke up and I was like, I want to do this. Like, I want to do this as a career. Like, I love this. Like, and that's like the day I just started doing a bunch of research and a bunch of training and working on myself and just trying to improve. But definitely that lingering of anxiety and self-doubt, like all of that kind of was in the back of my mind. So fast forward, right, I'm starting to apply to the schools and stuff. And my outside coach and my high school coach both were like, if you guys want to go for a career, we'll just fast forward to grade 11. You guys want to go for a career, like, this is something you have to, get ready for. And obviously the recruiting process starts in grade 9. And it's hectic, right? Like, you guys on the podcast were talking about last week. Ariana knows, like, and you probably know too, Maya, where it's just, it's a lot at once for a young kid. And a lot of it came at once, and a lot of it was overwhelming for me. And with that kind of anxiety and self-doubt in my mind, it kind of made me nervous. And basically just, I got accepted into 3 junior colleges, and basically none of my top picks at the time were really like on that list of exceptions that I got in my separate email, which I can't believe you guys didn't have.
Hey.
I think going through recruiting twice, I'd figure it out, but no.
Come for us.
Yeah. Maybe the third time. I'm just kidding. There won't be a third time.
I will say we did have someone recruit, like, basically guiding us through the whole thing, that told, like, set up our page for us, set up our videos for us, set up the scouting for us, and all the tryouts. And so I will say I did have a little bit of a cheat code there.
You know, I did too. I mean, I had a recruiter, so there shouldn't really be an excuse for me, but but here I am. Here I am. How many years?
It's all good. Hey, You still popped, so
Okay.
popped off.
Anyways,
Go Noles.
continue.
Sorry. Anyways, so yeah, so a lot of the decisions that like were being made at the time were like all these kids were going, and the picks that I picked basically my top three choices weren't really giving me a lot of attention, and a lot of those top tens were Stanford, like big top 10 D1 schools, right? And at the time, like I wasn't as big as I am now, right? I haven't fully grown yet. And a lot of NCAA scouting revolves around potential and like size, right? Like if, you know, you throw the ball the hardest, you're the tallest, right? You will generally be able to make a bigger impact. And not necessarily always the case, but like obviously in NCAA, they're looking for the potential, right? They're looking for the possible how they can craft a player, right? A lot of schools. So and that was leading a lot of anxiety from before that I gained, a lot of anxiety and a lot of doubt. Well, what if I can't do this? I'm obviously scared, which I had every reason to be. Obviously, I didn't think that at the time. I'm like, why am I so scared? Like, and a lot of it came down to I don't want to fail. Like my parents set me up, and I set myself up, and I don't want to fail, and I have all this anxiety, and that's when I started running into a little bit of like, you know, I was a little depressed and I was very anxious all the time. And I just ended up backing out because I got too scared. Right. And obviously looking back now, like I should have felt that way. But for sure, it was definitely a tough time because I basically backed out. And then I said, like, I can't do this. And my parents were like understanding. They said, like, hey, man, like, we get it. Like, you should have gone for it. Yeah. And they just basically said, like, that's okay. You understand. We'll figure something out.
Oh my God. Sorry. I mean, you said that you backed out of it. And I feel like obviously from the outside looking in, I feel like that is, if I was in your situation, I would have done the exact same thing, because all those feelings that come with, not being as good as you want to be or not being noticed like you want to be. There is just something about recruiting. I mean, I mentioned it last week, but there is something about recruiting that's just so overwhelming and just makes you feel almost like shit. Like I'm gonna flat out say it, like
Oh, true.
the first time going through recruiting, it was horrible because you dream big, you set these big goals for yourself as a kid, as everyone does. You want to go to these big schools, these big top 10 schools that, seem so great on paper, and you want to be part of that legacy. You want to be part of that program. But when these coaches just flat out tell you, I remember when I was being recruited the first time, there was a coach who was, he was so nice and the program seemed great. And, I was so excited talking to him, and we were talking on the phone, and I was so excited. I was like, I think this is going well. Like, this is going to be great. Mm-hmm. And the last thing he says to me before he ends the call is, you're just not fast enough to go here. And I was crushed. It broke me to the core. It was horrible. That is like, imagine a 40-something-year-old man telling a 16-year-old girl that. The confidence crusher that is, like, it's horrible. What are you supposed to do as a kid? You're
sure.
You're crushed and you don't know how to get over it because you're already so insecure. I feel like as kids in high school, you're already so insecure. You feel like the world is against you almost. You have so many people looking at you. You have these schools where you want to go to, and these coaches telling you that you're just not good enough. That is a horrible feeling.
For sure. 110%.
How did you come out of that? How are you feeling now? If you looking back on it now, how does that make you feel?
Oh, well, now, like we were talking about earlier, I overcame a lot of that stuff, and a lot of it has to do with taking that half a year after I graduated high school, mm-hmm. and it took that half year to self-reflect, and I think, and I know it's gonna sound kind of like silly, but that's definitely when I felt like I grew up. I took that half semester, sorry, and I basically just took it to self-reflect and think to myself, and of course at the beginning there was tons of regret. You should have went for it, and I felt bad and guilty and all these different negative emotions. But after I took that half a year off, and my mom told me something. There's two major quotes in my life that I will live and die by now. One of them came from my mom, and obviously I don't think she made the quote, but she's the biggest part of my life. And she basically said, everything happens for a reason, right? And I know obviously that's super generic, and whether you believe, or whether you're a religious person or not, whether you believe in a higher power or not, everything happens for a reason is a great quote, because you can't sit back and dwell on your past mistakes, right? You can't sit back and regret, because you'll never move forward in life, right? You're taking 2 steps back without taking 1 step forward, right? Like, you're not learning. You're not even taking 1 step forward. You're going back 2. Like, you're not learning anything. You're sitting and you're stuck in that same spot. And there's another quote that I learned from Jim Carrey's dad. And this not verbatim, so like not word for word, but basically it's just basically he said, you can fail at something that you don't like or that you don't want to do. So why not try to do something that you love? And those 2 quotes really resonated. Like, it spoke volumes for me, right? Like, and like I said, I became a whole new person after that, right? I thought to myself, like, why am I sitting here worried about not being good enough when I know I can be good enough? I have the talent, I have the potential. Just go for it. Take the leap and jump into something that you might be scared of, but you're going to regret it for the rest of your life if you don't.
Yeah, I think those are 2 great quotes. Like, the everything happened for a reason one. You said it's pretty generic, but it's really it is true. And it can be very hard to see sometimes in the moment that there is a reason for something that is happening. But eventually you'll realize all the things that wouldn't have happened if maybe that thing didn't happen, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like, your mentality and everything that you've been through is pretty amazing, because it's a big, like Ariana said, crusher, when something that you work so hard for, dedicated and sacrificed so much for, not just you, but your parents, your family, and everything like that. And to know that it's not really playing out the way that you want to, there's nothing more that you can do, right? Like, you feel kind of stuck, and you feel like you haven't done enough, and then you kind of feel like it's your fault, and then you get into this pit of just self-doubt and poor self-talk and everything like that, right? So in those times, what did you do to cope, whether it be in that half year that you took off, or even during the recruiting process?
So yeah, like I said, that half semester really, really changed my whole life, basically, right? That whole self-reflecting period, because like I said, life after that, like life during that half semester, it was just so much quieter, and I had so much more, because obviously, like, Ariana, during the recruiting process, it's everything's on the go. Like, everything is just so, like, it's all happening in your face, right? It's all like,
it's very
all
quick.
this stuff is
Everything changes
exactly
very quickly. Yep.
For sure, right? And everything's just shifting, and like, we're just a number to them, right? Realistically.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, it hurts when something like that happens, but I definitely took that time, and I just like, and that basically gave me a new confidence, right? Like, working on myself, and working to improve my game, working to improve my mentality, my health, just everything, right? Like, that definitely took like leaps and bounds. Like I said before, it just took huge steps for me, and like, I grew into someone who I never thought I could be before that. And I think I'm almost like a separate person, because now, like, Maya knows, like, I'm probably one of the most confident people, like, I know. And
in
like,
a good way, not in that like obnoxious way.
oh no, for
all.
sure.
Not
I
at all.
For sure, I walk the line of cocky and confident, because it is a very, very, very thin line. And I do sometimes dip my toe over the line, sorry, into the cocky side, for sure. But I think that swagger is something that I will never take away for anything. Like, and I know sometimes it can come off pretty rude, but when I step on the field, or I step in the rink, I feel like I'm the best, like, guy out there. Like, I feel like I'm going to crush everyone. Like, that I never would have thought that before this happened. So it was almost like a necessary evil, right? Like, and it goes back to everything happens for a reason, right? I would have never gained the ability, the confidence, the mental well-being I have today if I didn't go through that failure.
Yeah.
Right? Throwback to episode 1 of the podcast.
Oh my God, He listens to the pod.
He's a real fan.
Told you, I'm an avid podcast. Nobody asks listener. But yeah, no, like I said, it all comes down to like that situation. I guess in a way needed to happen for me to learn how to be better. Like, because I knew there's holes in my game, right? And now that helped me realize how to improve. And now, like, if I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to sound cocky, but when people go, oh, like, you know, it's impressive what you're doing out there, I don't say, like, I'm not shocked. I say, I know. And that's because, like, the confidence that I gain and the ability that I gain through working hard and wanting to be better, now I feel like, and I truly do feel like I'm the best player out there when I step out there because of the new confidence. So
good for you. Honestly, all I have to say, good for you, because it truthfully takes so much, not only emotionally, physically, everything. It takes a lot to come out of the place that you were after being, you know, after being told by all these people, no, like it takes a lot to come out of that. And the fact that you did and you came out not only better, but stronger and like just is amazing. So I commend, amazing. I love that for you. I'm really happy for you because it takes a lot. And it's just great to see, like, you're the perfect example of someone who can bounce back. You know, not many people think that they can bounce back from what they think is a failure or what they think is not good enough. And the fact that you're living proof that you're not only doing that, but you're even more confident now is just amazing. So good for you. We're really happy for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that for sure. It's one of those things where it's like, because I have tons of friends that, like, obviously playing at that level, you get tons of friends who do go to that route, like in NCAA, I have buddies in the MLB and they've even had their fair share of failures, right? Like everyone always has their stuff to deal with.
I think it was Draymond Green, who was an NBA player, once said, if I don't believe I'm the best defender in the league, then who is? Now, do I believe he's the best defender in the league? Absolutely not. I'm sorry.
He believes he is, so it must be true.
Exactly.
But Draymond is, but to himself, Draymond is.
Exactly. And that's the only thing that matters to him. And that's the only thing that should ever matter to someone. And like, I'll be the first to admit, I don't have the confidence that Josh has. I've definitely gotten better as I've gotten older, but you know, it's just something that I think is so important for everybody. And it's a hard thing to come around, especially these days when everything is just about comparison. And, you know, we see all this, we're just, you know, engulfed by media and everything that seems so amazing when sometimes it's not really, you know. And I think the confidence that you have in yourself is what has brought you to this point. And I think that's so amazing. And you should take a lot of pride in that because that's not an easy thing to do. So
when I walk out there now, like I always want to be the best. And I don't think I'm ever going to give that competitiveness up now. And I think that's like something that I'll always like ride with.
I think what's great about one of the many great things about your story, Josh, is the path. Because I feel this might just be a me thing, but I feel like society or just the world, especially as someone who just is kind of starting university, went through a lot of, you know, major life decisions going from high school to university, kind of that, you know, transition in life, where there's kind of this expectation of what the life path should look like. You know, how we all go to school, go to high school, go to university, you get a job, you're married by this age, have kids, whatever. Like, I feel like that might just be a me thing, but I feel like there are a lot of people who think that their life is supposed to be set up a certain way. And if it's not set up that way, then it's a failure or you're not doing well. So did you ever think to yourself, because your recruiting path and journey is quite unique in the sense that you just decided to not go to the States after grade 12. However, you're still pursuing, you know, going down south to play baseball and you're still pursuing that career and dream of yours. So did you ever think or have any thoughts about your path, your athletic path and recruiting journey?
To a certain extent, I'd say it disadvantaged me, but I will say not because of necessarily the path itself, but the way that I approached it. And a big reason of that is because, like I said, when I was younger, I had a lot of like with the anxiety and a lot of doubt, right? And when you're hindering yourself like that, no matter what kind of path you're taking, you're always going to be at a disadvantage, right? with when you're holding yourself back and not willing to jump forward and take a leap into something, into the unknown, you're always, no matter what path you're on, you're always going to hinder yourself. Like, I do agree, like nowadays, like it's very cookie cutter. Like it's very basically, you go to school, you get recruited in grade 9, you go to the States, you're committed by grade 12 and like, or grade 11, you're gone. Right. But I don't think that's the only path. I think some paths may be harder than others, but not everyone's path can be the same. Right. Like everyone tries to have that similar path, but realistically, there's 8 billion people in the world, right? Not everyone's going to have the same path. And there's some people that may not have the same opportunities. And so I will say, the long and short of it, I definitely didn't help myself by snowballing into thoughts of, oh, well, this isn't going well and it's getting worse. Right. So definitely think that it's best, no matter what path you take, to be confident in yourself and be happy. And I don't think that that's the only path. I think that there is multiple paths, but you just have to be confident in whatever you decide.
Mm-hmm. I also think sometimes you can't help it. Like as we just mentioned, like some people are made to believe that there's only one right way to do certain things, right? Like we said, like, you go to school, you're committed, and then you go to school again. Like some people think that's the only way to do it, but that's not true. And then when you're not doing that, it's normal to feel like, hey, oh my God, I'm failing. Like it's not like an abnormal feeling. It's just unfortunately how we're all structured to think. In my opinion, I think it's better because it's more interesting. It's maybe, it is frustrating because there are so many feelings and uncertainty that comes with it, for sure. But you're not going with the crowd. You're not going with the field. You're doing something completely different. You're doing your own thing. And I think that's the best part. It's your life. I think some people forget that sometimes. It's your life. You get to do whatever the hell you want with it. Who cares what everyone else says? It's your life. You get to live it however you want to do it. And if you want to do something, take your time to do it. Take your time, take your energy, devote yourself to it. Because I can promise you that if you're doing the things that you want to do that make you happy, odds are you're probably gonna you're gonna be okay. And of course it's gonna be scary. Like not everything goes to plan. And I think again, that's life though. Like, like you get to do whatever the hell you want. So,
yeah, and it happens for a reason, right? Like you've
exactly.
been saying all pod. And I think kind of like two things that I wanted to touch on was, Josh, when you were saying that the kind of snowball effect of those negative thoughts didn't help you. Well, I think that's very correct in the moment of when that was all happening. I think in the future though, like where we are now, it probably has gotten to this point because you realize that's no way that I should be talking to myself, because like you say now, you are one of the greatest players out there and you 100% thoroughly believe that, as you should, right? So I think like I've said before, my wise words, you can't have good without having bad. So you can't, have that confidence without having that doubt. Everyone goes through that in life. Everyone does. And I think while it didn't help you in the moment, I definitely think it's brought you to where you are now. And look at you.
I like we said, like it was, for me at least personally, it's a necessary evil. And just to touch up on what you said, Ariana, it's like there's like a stigma almost around different paths when approaching the NCAA, because it is so straightforward and cookie cutter, right? That when you're not going down that path, there's almost like a stigma around, oh, this is not the most convenient path. And it may hinder them. But in reality, right, like some people just to approach it differently, right? Like it all just depends on your situation, right? And like I said, for me personally, that failure really helped me grow as a person in general, like everything, not just like my skill and my health, but my mental and just everything about it, right? Like, so it's definitely a shift, but everyone's got to try to adapt.
Yeah. And I bet now you can look back on it and say, I'm better for it. I'm better now. And I think that's the best part. When you're able to look back on your growth, that is one of the most satisfying things ever. Some people don't grow out of their old habits, and that's horrible because they're stuck in the same loop. For what? You're not growing. You're not doing anything. You're not moving forward. You're moving backwards, if anything. So being able to observe your growth is amazing.
That's great. And I think too, I think Ariana, you said something about being successful, like if you're enjoying what you're doing and everything. But I think we also live in a society where success is very much measured by things, whether it be what
A
team
medal
you're
or an
on.
award or something that you achieved,
Exactly.
making a team, for
Exactly.
example, if you're in a sport.
Yeah. And I'm not here to take away from all the successful people that have attained those things. But truthfully, from the inside, success is, there's just so many different ways to define success. We've talked about it very briefly before, but success isn't always about like the level you've achieved. It's about what you've done with yourself and kind of the process of it. Like embrace your journey and be proud of yourself of what you've gone through, done, have succeeded in, and are, the dream
Set
that
up
you're
to do.
chasing.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Right. Like it's not always measured by things.
Exactly. And I think going off of that too, like successful people, they're successful for a reason, but that doesn't mean that they're the be all end all. Just because they have achieved something doesn't mean that you haven't. And I feel like it's easy to say that if you haven't achieved, like, let's say, I'm going to put it in the context of swimming because that's the one and only thing that I know confidently.
Chill.
But in the context of swimming, someone who's made a national team or someone who's made the Olympic team, for example, that is the highest level of the sport. And everyone, when you're a kid, when you're a little swimmer, of course you want to be an Olympian. That's what you see on you. That's what you see growing up. That's probably how you were inspired. That's how I was inspired to be a swimmer. But just because you don't make an Olympic team does not mean that you're not successful. And I'm going to say that because I can say it confidently. There are definitely things, and there are definitely people out there who have achieved things that maybe aren't an Olympic team, but that doesn't mean you're not successful. Thing is, okay, you know what? I'm going to give y'all a little preview because I'm telling you this now. We're going to do a whole episode on it because I could talk forever about it.
Yeah.
But I truthfully think that people who put themselves on this kind of pedestal because they've achieved something that others haven't, and they think they have the right to treat others like crap, that ain't it. That ain't it. Oh my God.
Facts.
Oh, that's for another episode.
I will say on that, like, I totally agree with you. And from my experience, at least, especially this is actually pretty prominent in hockey because, well, you know how big hockey is in Canada, right?
Mhm.
It's definitely the people that you can hear like are pretty big. Like, there's always like trash talk or shit talk, I guess, like on the
That's
ice and
gonna come
whatever.
with every sport that
That comes with whatever, right? Especially against enemies or
For sure.
against other teams.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the specific people that your own teammates that are bringing you down and are very critical that don't fully commit. Someone once told me, like, you can really see the holes in their game, and a lot of that has to do with either insecurity about their holes in their game, right? Because everyone has like different like strengths and weaknesses, but for sure, like, people, when you're bringing other people down, like there's a weakness there that, and you have to try to exploit it.
Yeah, it's kind of an unsaid thing, like you don't have to say, "Oh, I don't like this about myself." You kind of project it onto other people. And I feel like there's in every sport there there has to be at least one athlete that does that. And
Sure.
it's horrible, obviously, but that's kind of what comes with it as being an athlete. Sometimes we're just so insecure and we just project it in some kind of way, shape, or form, and it's horrible.
Athletes are so self-centered.
Oh, 100%. Are you kidding me? Oh,
Bro, what
my
did
God.
Josh? What did you just?
So self-centered.
What did you just set off, Josh?
That is so true.
Listen, I'll be the first to admit it. All of us have felt that way one way or another, but it's one thing to feel that way inside or about your own game. It's another to like project it, like Ariana said, right? Like, especially when A, you're on the same team as that person, or B, you're in an individual sport going for the same goal.
Well, this has been great. Again, what we just talked about, y'all are going to get a whole episode on that. But I'm glad
whether you like it or not.
Yeah, whether you like it or not. So stay tuned for episode 11. But thank you, Josh. So far, this has been amazing. We loved having you on. But we're going to ask our final two questions for you. The first one is, what does your sport mean to you? And I'm going to flip it around a little bit and add a little bit more to it because now that we know you a little bit better, going through what you went through, what does it mean to you now?
Yeah, sports mean everything to me. Like it's a huge passion of mine, and like some of that passion has translated to like other things I do, like that competitiveness, that drive. Like drive's a big word for me. Like I feel like I've gained so much drive over the past few years now because of that stuff. And anything I do, whether it's like, building computers or riding a bike, just like drive and motivation. I think those, because of sports and because of the sports I play and how much drive I have in those, it's definitely surrounding everything in my life.
Love to see it. Great
Yeah.
answer.
And before we ask you like the last question, just thank you for sharing your story. And that stuff is never easy because like that stuff's hard, and we really appreciate you sharing your story because I know for a fact that there are other people who can relate to it, because I personally can even relate to it, to be completely honest. And it means a lot to know that there are other people in this world who have felt ways like that before, because it's tough and it can get lonely. So thank you for sharing your story. It was very beautiful and I really appreciate it.
I mean, I'm more than happy to share it. Like I really like you guys. You guys are great. And I think that you guys have a lot of good lessons on here. And the story's not even done yet, right? Like I explained before,
Exactly.
like I'm still trying to, because going to UIT or University of Ontario Tech, whatever it's called now, it has allowed me to keep my NCAA years of eligibility. I want to go back down, right? And possibly for my master's, like play in the States, right? Yeah. So now that I've learned and become more mature in that sense, like I'm leaving that door open. I'm not closing it like I did previously, right? And closing a door of opportunity. Now I'm leaving it open so that if I do want to go and do my master's, I can still try to go and play NCAA baseball or whatever the case is.
That's amazing. I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, I'm not just saying this. I feel really inspired by you because it's not easy to do that. So many people would just truthfully give up and they would just be like, that's it for me there. But the fact that you still believe in yourself, that you have so much belief in yourself that you're like, I'm not done yet. This isn't over. My story isn't over. That's amazing. And it takes so much courage. It takes bravery to do that after everything that you've been through. So good for you. I am rooting for you in whatever you do. And
Thank you.
I'm so hyped for you.
I'm very flattered.
The Nat podcast is
nice.
cheering for you forever and ever. And we hope that everything that you deserve comes to you, and it will, because you work hard and it'll come. Arguably every single time, the most important question. I know that you are a very big fan of music. You listen to lots of kinds of music. What is your go-to hype song, whether that be for a workout, pre-game by yourself, pre-game with your teammates? What is one that you can always go to that will pick you up and get you hyped?
Okay. So I've been doing a lot of research. This is like a 24-hour project. This is an all-day project I've been working on.
Ready.
I was ready.
I've been
ready.
And everything.
I was scribbling notes. I was like, my hand is cramping from I was just planning. I was the master plan. The brain was working. The mouse and the wheel was turning. But so can I pick two?
Oh, 100%.
All right, cool. So for my all-time, I'd say Drake. I'm like, obviously, Six God represent. Anything Drake is pretty dope for like all time. But J. Cole or Kendrick, but J. Cole is my favorite artist of all time. Like, and I will die on this hill. Amari is better than my life on off season. I will die on this hill. Everyone says my life is better. Amari is better. I'm telling you guys. That is my song.
I mean, I guess that answers my next question, because I was going to ask you to rate his newest album out of 10, but I feel
11.
like that's what I thought. But
I like
good
For
answer.
Your Eyes Only, For Your Eyes Only and The Off Season are my two favorite albums. Oh, and okay, let's not get too crazy here though. Forest Hills Drive's pretty dope too. I can go on about
classic.
This all day.
I was gonna say that's a classic. I always go back to it.
You can't knock Forest Hills Drive, but Amari is better than my life. I'm telling you guys. Just because 21 Savage is on it doesn't mean it's better. I will die on this hill. I'm telling you guys.
That's a great answer. Thank you. So
very elaborate. We love it.
Exactly. So basically, final answer is Amari by J. Cole, and almost any Drake song.
Any Drake or Kendrick. That just gets me hyped.
Love
Can't
it.
go wrong
Love,
with
love.
DNA or,
Nah, yeah.
The
I
answer
actually love
was-
that album.
His
Damn.
answer was literally see all of the above. Like,
Yeah. Any hip hop artist.
yeah. Well, Josh, this has been great. And we loved this conversation. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Again, we're so excited for whatever you do in the future, and we're rooting for you. And we just can't wait to see what you do. So again, thank you.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And thank you for having
Yeah.
me on. I can't wait for the next episode, and I'm excited.
He's an avid listener,
Avid
a
listener.
student, a versatile athlete. What doesn't he do? What doesn't he do? Thank you so much, Josh. We have mad respect for you and your story and everything that you do. And like Ariana said, go Josh. We're cheering for you. But
Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Go you.
To the-
You know, go you guys. You know, go Maya.
Thank
Go,
you.
you know, go Ariana. Like you guys don't get enough appreciation. So
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thanks, Josh.
Cry out here.
But to Josh, an avid listener, and all the other avid listeners who made it through this episode and all the other episodes, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next week on Thursday at 12, where we ask the questions that
Nobody asks. Bye.
later.